If you like this YouTube video, please consider liking,
sharing,
and subscribing.
Welcome back to Who Doesn't Have a Podcast. I am joined by Susan Foreman.
Hi, Susan Foreman.
And Daniel Allen.
Chicka.
So what we've got coming up today, we have got our usual round of trivia where we have made up some things that have happened in Doctor Who and Dan has to catch us up. We've also got some early reviews for the next episode of Doctor Who, Boom, written by Stephen Moffat.
Boom.
And we're also going to be reviewing the first two episodes of the latest season of Doctor Who, Space Babies and The Devil's Chord. So let's go straight into it.
I feel like
Over to you, Susan.
that felt like the point where that audience, and they'll be like, an audience like, yes, there's a podcast.
I'll put it in. People are gonna, they're gonna be like scream. It'd be like, you know, like the Avengers Endgame where they all come out the portal and everyone was like screaming. I'll put that in there. Jerome, let's go straight into trivia.
Trivia time. Dan, welcome. I'm looking directly at you now. Mike's in my vision, but this is all for you. Doctor Who trivia. One of these days we will start keeping score. I think
it's 3-2 to Dan.
3-2 to Dan.
It's 3-2 to Dan.
Is it 3-2 to Dan? I mean, I don't have anything to say opposite to that, Mike. Do you reckon it's 3-2 to Dan?
It's all in my head. It's all in my head. 1 week it could be 3-2 to Dan. The next week it could be like 10-3 to us. So because it's all up here.
It's all up here, and that's all that matters is that it's all up there. So Dan,
Is it?
I'm gonna give you.
Are you sure?
I'm gonna give you 4 options. Classic.
4.
I would like 4, and I'll be honest with you, Dan. These are long ones, so I'm gonna try and use my vocal skills to whiz through these.
Do me a favour, Jerome. Try and make them under 30 seconds so I get them into a YouTube short. I was worried about that when you sent them over to me earlier today.
Mike, I'm a professional. Okay, Dan, you're gonna have 4 options. I want to know which one is true. All right.
Okay.
Mike has seen these, and he's given me the go ahead. So if you're ready, we're ready. Dan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Excellent. Here is your first one. Matt Berry was reportedly in line to play the part of the meddling monk in an episode penned back in 2020, which would have seen the monk travel to Tsarist Russia to devise a plot to use disco to take over the world, which included getting the actual Rasputin to listen to Rasputin by Bonnie M and inspire the madness that was to unfold. This plan inevitably went balls to the wall and had to be stopped by the Doctor. Number 2. The Thals and the Khalids, who lived on Skaro during the origin of the Daleks, would initially have appeared on television with multiple androgynous features, such as extendable and obtusely grotesque nipples all over the entire body, to foreshadow the inevitable full Daleks transformation. This idea was scrapped due to excessive nudity and inappropriate imagery risks for the BBC, who saw Doctor Who as a family show. Number 3.
Are we already on number 3?
Yep.
Jerome's a pro.
Anyway, question number 3, Dan. Bill Nighy, remember him? Well, he was offered the role of the Doctor 3 times.
Here's a flash from the past. Remember that one from Love Actually? Yeah, that guy.
I thought your
Remember him from Shaun of the Dead?
I thought your face was more like, what do you mean, remember him? Of course I remember him. It's Bill Nighy.
It's Bill Nighy, you dick.
You know, sometimes we forget Bill Nighy. Bill Nighy was offered the role of the Doctor 3 times. The 8th Doctor, the 9th Doctor, and the 11th Doctor. But every time Bill Nighy rejected the role, saying he wasn't happy that they wanted him to use his own voice and persona rather than that of a beaten down Northern Irish battle veteran who had skin deformation from haphazard regeneration. And finally, Dan, Michael Grade. Remember him? Spitefully as Baron Grade.
Michael Grade, Dan.
Michael Grade, Dan, known spitefully as Baron Grade in Doctor Who circles, tried his damnedest to get the show cancelled in 1986 because his fiancée at the time jilted him at the altar, only to run off into the universe twilight with the 6th Doctor, Colin Baker. So, Dan, very briefly,
this is a hard one.
Very briefly to go over them, you've got Matt Berry as the monk, the extendable nipple Thals and Khalids, Bill Nighy, or Jilting at the Altar with Colin Baker?
This is a hard one because usually I throw in some like stupid shit that I've obviously just done to make myself laugh.
Yeah, it's quite.
And
It's quite hard
I've gone to the other end of the scale with this one from last week.
You very much woke up on the serious side of bed this morning, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm gonna.
Why don't you rule some out, Dan? We'll draw out this already long-winded process.
It's 9 o'clock. I'm gonna scrap Matt Berry because the whole Rasputin thing we've seen in Jodie Whittaker's final episode. I watched that one.
Yeah, you keep throwing in these little tidbits of episodes I think you haven't seen.
Hey, I'm full of surprises.
Oh, have you seen? Well, Mike, to be fair, we've seen his notes for upcoming episodes. We should have expected more.
Okay, so I'm getting rid of that one.
You probably did. Sorry, you probably did watch that one because David Tennant appears at the end.
Well, I didn't know. Didn't know. Glad he appeared at the end. Okay, so I'm getting rid of the first one. The second one with the whole nipple thing, I feel like that just doesn't work as an episode. The third one,
you've seen Space Babies, right?
Don't get me started on Space, but if just you wait, I've got a shitload of notes on Space Babies. Remember Bill Nighy? I think it's the fourth option.
The fourth option.
I think it's the fourth option because of all of them, it sounds somewhat plausible.
So the guy tried to pull Doctor Who off the air because his wife ran away with the lead actor.
With the actual Doctor.
I feel like with some pettiness, someone would actually go ahead and do that. And in that era, I think they would.
So you're going for a distasteful jilting at the altar with the head controller of the BBC with the lead actor of a beloved science fiction show.
Very seriously, I'm going with option 4.
Okay, Mike, he's picked option 4. Now, I will be fair to Dan. These are 4 toughies. I think out of some of the weeks we've had, these are ones that are not as obvious. And because of that, Dan, I'm going to throw a little spanner into the works. I'm going to give you a second chance because that one's not correct.
Oh,
but because they're toughies, I'm gonna give you a lifeline. I'm gonna throw in a cheeky little 50-50, not a 50-50, just a lifeline. So it's not Michael Grade, and I can tell you why. Because he actually left the BBC in 1987, and he just hated Doctor Who.
Did he try and genuinely get it cancelled?
Yeah. He just hated it. Yeah, he genuinely hated the series. But it had nothing to do with his wife jilting him at the altar or anything to do with Colin Baker. That was just in there. So now that you know that one's wrong, do you want
Susan, what are you like?
Susan.
Okay, so in that case,
You want a quick reminder?
Go on then.
Matt Berry, the Thals and the Khalids with the nipples, or Bill Nighy?
I'm going with Bill Nighy.
Going with Bill Nighy. Final answer.
Yeah, why not?
Bill Nighy rejected the Doctor 3 times because they wanted him to use his own voice and persona rather than that of a beaten down Northern Irish battle veteran.
Dad, you can't take it back.
Who had skin defamation.
I was just about to
I forgot about that bit.
That's what I was going to say. You obviously forgot.
Option number 2. Show me the nipples.
Show me the nipples. Mike, are we going to let him off? We'll let him off.
Is this your final answer?
I'm going with nipples.
Final answer.
Yeah.
The Thals and the Khalids who lived on Skaro appeared on television with multiple androgynous features such as extendable and obtusely grotesque nipples. Dan, you have said final answer. Mike, you know what the true answer is, so would you like to reveal it?
The true answer, Dan, is Matt Berry was supposed to be the meddling monk in an unwritten Doctor Who story. You got them all wrong.
He got them all wrong.
Are you kidding me?
Big win there for the Who boys.
Matt Berry was going to be an episode of Doctor Who where he was going to make Rasputin dance to Rasputin.
No. Do you know what's really funny? Do you know what's really funny about that? Do you know what's mad? You probably shot yourself in the foot with that first comment because on one element you'd go, "Oh, hang on, actually, it made it into an episode." Like that scene, that idea actually made it into a future
That was
episode.
the Tweaks plot of a Matt Berry episode where Rasputin is played some Rasputin. What the hell kind of era did I miss?
Susan, I was scared there because you were giving him a lot of second chances, but it really landed the way that you wanted it to land.
I'm delighted. I'm delighted. Dan, commiserations.
Hey, there's always next week. Maybe watching the football.
Maybe Matt Berry will appear as the meddling monk, but probably not to Rasputin now because they've done that. It'll probably be
Bill Nye's a beaten up Irishman, won't it?
All right, boys. Now we're going to talk about early reviews for Boom, which is next week's episode. It's written by Stephen Moffat. Don't know about you, Jerome. Probably the episode that I'm most looking forward to, apart from the finale, which is kind of like shrouded in a lot of secrecy.
Yeah, the trailer was really interesting. I thought the Next Time trailer, because it didn't show anything. And that's always the sign of and I think they did something similar for Wild Blue Yonder, didn't they, recently, where there was really not a lot going on there in the trailer. And from the look of it, it almost appears to suggest that it will take place in literally one area and one moment. Not to say it will, but it kind of suggests that.
I mean, I think there's going to be lots of surprises, but essentially it is about the Doctor and Ruby landing on a war-torn planet, and the Doctor stands on a landmine, and it's like motion tracking. So I think if he moves from that point forward, then he'll be blown into becoming David Tennant again. And it just looks quite interesting. And the Radio Times have given it 4 stars. And they've said that it's a character piece, essentially. So it's quite different from his other stuff. I know a lot of his other work has been given criticisms for being a bit too timey-wimey or plot-centric and people can't follow it. Apparently this one is a real character piece, which really showcases Millie Gibson and Ncuti Gatwa to their extreme, and wouldn't be any more different to the 2 quite playful episodes we've had before. So I'm really looking forward to it. It's like a stripped-down episode. Apparently, who knows, maybe Radio Times are lying, or maybe we disagree, and apparently it's very tense as well. And it's all about their performances, especially Ncuti Gatwa apparently. And Russell T Davies has said in some sort of pre-interviews for this series that he imagines this episode is one that fans are going to be speaking about for years. So really looking forward to it.
I'm really looking forward to this one. I think, without going into the next bit, this is the sort of Doctor Who I was kind of hoping that we'd see more of. Now it's back. Yeah, it seems very tense. If you're saying the reviews are as strong as they are, then I just hope it's something a bit heavier this time round, because I feel like we were kind of on the cusp of that in episode 2 in moments, and I think it's time that we see them really grappling with a quite life or death moment. I'm very excited.
Me too. I think it's probably the episode that I'm looking forward to the most. And Stephen Moffat, I think, is just, I know we've discussed this before, but I think he is probably the greatest living Doctor Who, right? Maybe the greatest writer of Doctor Who ever, I think.
I think it's going to be a really tense kind of, a very kind of organic. I love episodes that just have they focus on 2 central characters and there's nothing else to get distracted with. So it's either going to be really good or really forgettable, and I don't think it's going to be the latter, because it really relies on those 2 central performances. And from what I've seen, I know we're going into the other 2 episodes in a minute, but from what I've seen so far, both very, very strong, really strong. And I think it will be good with Stephen that as well, he doesn't have to worry about showrunner duties. He can just write an episode that he can just stick all of his energies into, and I think it will be really good, because I think a little bit I don't know, someone was talking to me recently, stupidly, about cricket and cricket captains, and bear with me, but it's almost like when you're given certain responsibilities within a team, your overall game goes down, because you're having to think of so many things all the time in terms of just managing the team and managing the show, whatever, that it's now that you can just go out and just, hit a century across the green at Lords, like Stephen often has done in the past, then, it's going to, I think it will. I think it's going to be
I don't think he would have come back if he didn't have a killer idea. And I think he probably had had like an itch that he really wanted to scratch in terms of a story that's been playing in his head. And I'm really excited for it to just be a character piece. I think I've always liked his dialogue. I think he's really clever. I think they're going to make it really thrilling. And yeah. Right then, boys, 2 years in the making. Let's talk about the 2-episode premiere. And let's start with Space Babies. Our prediction for this episode was that the 4th Doctor gave someone some jelly babies once. That person then took them to space. They became like space jelly babies, and then everyone went a bit mental. Were we right?
No. But I feel that would have been a better plot.
Did you see that, Kevin? Oh, shots fired! Right, I think I might be a dissenting voice here, so I'll just go first. I'll just say my piece really quickly. I put this up on the channel. I think it's good. I compared it to Partners in Crime because it's quite frothy and quite light, that kind of series introduction. But I thought it's better than that, and I thought it was quite tightly scripted. I was just into it. I just came along for the ride. I think it's an audacious move to make this your first episode out of the gate. It was good, and I thought the VFX was really good, and they've obviously spent their money well on the babies. And, but sorry, it isn't. And Shooty Gatwa also gets his big Doctor moment, which I thought was really good. And my favourite bit of the whole episode was I thought it was amazing. And I think he is probably the most confident of the gate Doctor. He does the techno babble really, really well. I think he's great. There we go.
Dan? Because I feel like you're going to go the other end of the scale, and I might fall somewhere in the middle.
The one thing that was quite interesting, obviously we knew it was going to be a soft reboot of Doctor Who. There was quite a lot of summarising and recapping of his past. So those that were jumping straight back into again, you're getting a bit of the throwback and an overview of everything, which I think
and I thought they did all that quite well, right?
Because I think they did as well.
Occasionally.
Yeah, and there was kind of glimmers of that in episode 2, which we'll obviously get onto a bit later on. I think for me, it kind of felt like, in a way, they were slightly alienating existing fans. It kind of was a bit too much. It felt like it was too angled towards new audiences and trying to kind of go, hey, Doctor Who, come on along for this. It was like, I don't know, I feel like it didn't grip me anywhere near as well as other season premieres or episodes that have maybe come through in the past. I mean, the Space Babies were cute. I can't deny that. And, they kind of were there, and it was, it could have been a lot worse. But to kind of have the foe as the bogeyman made out of literal bogies, Christ's sake, it was like watching a fight. It was like watching CBeebies version of Doctor Who, in my opinion. I just felt like again, it's that kind of soft thing. Maybe there's a bit of like, hey, it's a bit Freeney's, it's a bit more for kids because it's Doctor Who and it's like Disney and all that kind of stuff. It just felt it was just a bit of a daft episode. And at that point, watching it then, I wasn't sure if I was really on board with this whole kind of fantasy take on Doctor Who. I feel like I'm kind of used to kind of how it was. It's going to take a lot for me to be convinced that the fantasy side of things is really going to work out in the long run. The kind of flashback that the Doctor had to being like the last of its kind and stuff like that, he's obviously met a lot of other characters or creatures in the past that have been last of their kinds. And it's this kind of sudden like, oh yeah, last of its kind. It's like, you've been in this position many, many, many times, but why is it suddenly a surprise that a creature made out of bogies is the only one of its kind as well? And I just thought it was a bit like, again, a bit too angled for like new audiences as well.
Maybe it just hit him then, Dan. Maybe that realization just came to him in the moment then after all these years.
Maybe. But there were a few bits. I mean, aside from me, I just felt it was a bit too like angled for kids, a bit too kind of Disney-fied personally. But there were a few little bits that really stood out that I had to make notes on. One of which was a character. So, when they're playing through the previous security footage in the control room, and you've got like the 3 previous like captains or like people that have been sent to space or whatever, and then they're kind of resigning for whatever reason. There was one character called Gina, is it Skulzich or something like that? And she starts talking in a kind of a weird, peculiar way, but then she's interrupted by the Doctor, and then it goes on to something else. It kind of cuts to the Doctor. So she doesn't get a full explanation out there. Whether that links to something else a bit further on, I'm not too sure. But I feel like Russell T Davies is the kind of writer that's smart enough that you wouldn't just put that in there for the sake of putting it in there. That would be like a reference point that you'd only go.
I'll have to rewatch that.
I only clocked it because there was one. So you had one captain. So there's one guy. Then there was like a lady, and then it cuts this character called Gina something, And she was only on screen for a couple of seconds. And then as she's about to go into detail on something a bit more sinister, what felt like something a bit more sinister, she then either, I can't remember whether the doctor starts talking to the current nanny or something else comes up on the screen, but she's only on it for a couple of seconds. And in the moment, I was like, hang on a minute, why would you suddenly cut away from that? There's a reason. And she was looking like dead center in the camera, and there's like, something wasn't quite right with that persona. So maybe there was something with that. And the only final thing I have is, and I've noticed in these last 2 episodes, I'm guessing it's kind of a knock-on effect from episodes of Doctor Who I haven't seen, is why the Doctor now all of a sudden isn't confronting his foe and is very much more fearful, more kind of self-preserved, or kind of in self-preservation, and is kind of running away from these creatures. Am I on the right track there?
You know, there's a compelling theory about this, which we will talk about once we're done reviewing briefly. Something I watched today, which sheds light on quite a lot of these things, and I just thought it was quite interesting. So we'll circle back to that, Dan.
Okay. So the only other thing that was okay, right. So the only 2 bits that really stood out, and I went, oh, hang on a minute. The first one, the Doctor was very, very quick to give Ruby a key to the TARDIS. That was surprisingly quick.
She proved herself, didn't she?
She did prove herself. I don't know whether how many other like Doctor's companions have been given keys that early on. Yeah. So that was the one thing. And then the only other thing, which I'm sure Jerome will probably have clocked and we'll probably talk about as well, is that on the big screen, after the TARDIS has crashed back into Ruby's flat in her mum's home, there's a scan on the screen of Ruby. Ruby's been scanned. Do we know what that means yet?
He loves a scan, the Doctor.
Because it was very kind of inconclusive, or something was appearing just as it cut to like the next time bit.
He loves scanning women, I think. But again, this is
that's not very progressive.
This is
what a creep.
There is an interesting theory about this and her, which I'll talk about because it's.
And as you mentioned that, obviously, because I won't mention it because of the next bit. But again, the
mystery about
the snow.
Yes.
So I think on the whole, I don't think it's going to go down for me personally as a very memorable or very good episode of Doctor Who. Is it the best kind of introduction for new people for Doctor Who? Again, I don't know. I feel like there have been other intros or other episodes where we've maybe seen the Doctor kind of shine more. I don't think it's an episode that I'll watch again, put it that way. I'm glad I've watched it and seen kind of Shooty and
Millie Gibson,
thank you. Seen those 2 perform again, very, very strong. You've got that kind of camaraderie already. I just think as far as episodes go, I think it might be one of Russell T Davies' weakest ones. I've got to be honest.
That's fair. Yeah.
And now Susan's about to tell me how wrong I am.
Well, Daniel, no. I you know what? I enjoyed it. I thought as a kind of opening episode, like it just kind of ticked a lot of Doctor Who family episodes. I would agree with Mike. It felt quite Partners in Crime-esque. There was humor going on. There was kind of a decent story. Do you know what I mean? Like something you could follow, something you didn't have to think too seriously about. I always think about the audience at this time as well. Like sitting down, it's a Saturday, everyone's probably getting ready to see that, Crown the Witch Island on Eurovision. You just want something like quite, I don't know, just easy to kind of flow into, especially for the first episode. If you'd have got something like The Devil's Chord, which I know we'll come on to in a minute, as the first episode, that's like, whoa, do you know what I mean? Like, it's really good, but it's like intense. So I think it was quite a nice one. The whole thing with the snot monster, it was quite funny, actually. I was watching it, and there was the moment where the tissue goes down the pipe. And I just remember thinking to myself, that's got to mean something, or it's going to be some sort of, at the time I was like, it's going to be some DNA thing, or there's going to be something wrong. Do you know what I mean with the bait? Because obviously they're talking with voices for a start. So I was like, clearly genetically, there's something not going on here. So I was like, there's going to be someone like corrupting DNA, or that's what the bogeyman's doing, or whatever. And then as soon as they entered the basement and you saw all of these strings and stuff, I literally out loud said at the TV, I was like, oh, it's snot. And then it turned out to be snot. I was like...
But you only said that because you'd snotted all over your TV, right?
I snotted all over my TV. Yeah. Hopefully the proceeds from this podcast, I'll be able to buy a new TV. So thanks everyone if you watch it. But no, I thought it was fine. I thought it was a good episode. I think it showcased Shooty and Millie quite well. their chemistry together. They're likable. I think that's always that's the major thing when I think you're selling like the first couple of episodes for any Doctor. And I think, to be fair, most of them have got it right. But I remember, like, I didn't watch it live, but when I watched like some of the Colin Baker episodes, for instance, when he first appeared on the screen, like, he was not likable. And I think it was difficult for a long time for people to really get on board with his Doctor, because he wasn't very nice, and you know what, he actually, I think, I know I'm going off slightly tangent here, but just quickly, Colin Baker's Doctor would have done better as a more modern Doctor because of his like arrogance and his kind of like the intensity of the brooding. At the time, I don't think it fitted. Anyway, I think they're very likable, and it was good and it was fun. I did see a very amusing review just now about how a lot of audience members just found the babies very creepy because of their CGI moving mouths. And I'll be honest, I can get on board with that. It was really creepy. It was one as well where it was like almost, because I'm assuming they obviously filmed with, you know, kind of toddlers and things in part. And you could see sometimes their faces, like maybe they were about to cry, or maybe they were like really not comfortable, like when they were filming and stuff. And it feels a bit odd, like the juxtaposition from the way they look to what they're saying. And it's like, but then, you know, it's hard to work with children and animals. And clearly that's what's going on there.
I thought all of that was really knowing and fun, actually. Like, they know they're working with babies. I got quite a lot of pleasure out of that.
Yeah, but you know what? I thought it was fine. It was a fun enough episode. I feel like the other performer who played the nanny and stuff, she didn't really get a lot to do. She was kind of there to fill in the plot and stuff.
It seemed quite abridged for her, didn't it?
Yeah, but it like, it was fine. It was fine, and I don't have any sort of issues with it. Do you know what I mean? Or it kind of going in. So yeah, all good.
Let's rate scores. Oh yeah, go on.
I think I'm going to give it a good. I'm going to say 6 out of 10 for me.
I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10.
Do I go down the middle? Can we do halves? Or is it wholes?
You've already run havoc with some of the rules on this podcast so far. You did it with the quiz.
There are no rules anymore. You took a machine into it.
I would say 6.5. 6.5. Maybe a 7. Maybe 6.5.
You were the more like series arc things just from the episode. Now we're going to talk about the Devil's Chord. So, what did we all think? Rome, let's start with you this time.
Cool. Coming to you from Clara's TARDIS. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I think Jinx Monsoon, great villain. Great villain. What an entrance. Really love the coming out of the piano. Look, very Freddy Krueger. Do you know, I'm very kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street sort of vibes going on there. And I really, really enjoyed it. Just gave it this real creepiness aspect that I think all kind of good villains need. Not too overboard to take it into the realm of horror, but just enough to make you feel uneasy. Really enjoyed that. Thought it was very strong. I think both episodes have been very strong for Ncuti and Millie. I really do. I think their chemistry together and their like central performances have been really good. I love the scene in particular. I loved out of the 2 episodes was the scene where they had to hide. And it was almost that I'm going to find you with the, what's it called? You'll come back to me in a minute. But I really enjoyed that. And the scene where it went completely silent. And for a minute, I don't know whether it made you guys go, was that meant to happen? Is my TV gone or something? And then with the idea of the water shutting it, just great, really good, like scientifically, just really, really good. Loved it. Very, very tense moment. Kind of just, yeah, it was just almost just a real battle of the wits that we haven't seen for a while, because it's just felt like, oh, very timey-wimey and very complex plots and all of this. And do you remember this bit and that bit? And this one felt very much like good guy, bad guy. And I just enjoyed that. They like brought it back to basics. The Beatles thing was just a bit of a, let's get people excited in the trailer, wasn't it? It was like they really had nothing to do with the episode at all. And the ending, while I didn't hate it at all. It just felt so at odds with the rest of the episode. And I was reading a thing by Russell where he was talking about, they were like, did you tell Millie and Ncuti that they were going to sing and dance this much? And he was like, no, we just kind of said to them because I think they were under the impression a lot of this stuff would be pre-recorded, and they actually filmed it like live in a lot of cases. and they're very good. Like, why not use those talents? And I think Millie Gibson, by the looks of it, does play piano. I don't think that was fake, because I think that is something she did. She's really good. But just the ending just felt, for me, it felt like it went on too long. It almost felt like I thought it was going to be like a 60-second thing, and you go, yeah, cool, celebrate Abbey Road. Do you know what I mean? Because it is like, it's a famous music. I was like, yeah, fair enough. But it just felt like it went on a bit too long. It just felt weird. But as an episode, I enjoyed it. I think the first 2 episodes have been good. I know, like, there's been some criticism of them online being too world blendy, as in, like, talking about refugees, talking about, you know, yeah, that was it really. Just like, I know there's been a lot of like, oh, it's annoying, you know, like they're talking about refugees and they're talking about other world matters and like adoption and fostering and all this stuff. But it's like, I think these things are important, and as long as the story's good, do you know what I mean? You can do these things and be really bad with them. You can talk about mental health and do it really poorly, and it can actually harm the subject. But if you're just writing a good story and it happens to cover those subjects, then why not?
Dan, what were your thoughts on The Devil's Chord?
I really, really, really liked it. I think it was the perfect second episode to kind of juxtapose the Space Babies, which in my mind now never happened. Because I think, so right from the get-go, again, I completely second with you, Jerome, the intro of the maestro, absolutely brilliant. I think she just has this creepy, sort of like timeless mystery and intrigue about her. She's just so fantastic to watch. I didn't know kind of what to kind of go in with expecting the maestro's performance and kind of character, but I was sold straight away. Thought it was brilliant. The intro piano and kind of the fourth wall break, and she does it a couple of times during that episode, which is quite notable, because I don't know many of the Doctor Who villains that break the fourth wall. This could be the first. I might be completely wrong there. But that kind of intro piano going into like the opening titles gave me actual goosebumps. I was like, okay, this is going to be a solid episode coming up now. I don't know why I've got this here, but I made a point of writing it. Has the Doctor ever wore jeans before?
Yeah,
I've
never seen the Doctor in denim before, and I was like, oh.
In all of time and space, I don't think I can remember him in jeans.
So I was like, oh, interesting. That kind of montage where they're getting changed into the 60s apparel with California Soul playing, that is worth every penny of the licensing fee that they paid for that song, because that was just wicked. That was so, so cool. I think we've got to take a minute to give a massive round of applause. Sorry if you've not watched it, I don't want to like ruin the surprise for you, but actually a little cameo that Michael appeared in. Well done, John Lennon.
I knew you were going to do John.
Really, you nailed the accent. We can all be proud that you nailed an accent for once. Well done.
Not only did Michael star in it, saved the day. Saved the day. Gave him that final note. Honestly, big round of applause.
And do you know what I think? Because we saw the Christmas episode and we said, "Are Disney going to start making more musical things out of Doctor Who?" Of course they bloody are. The dog song. It's like, do we bring the Beatles in and like maybe pay a bit of "Can't Buy Me Love," a bit of "With a Little Help from My Friend"? No, let's do the frigging dog song.
Well, that's the point, Dan. That's the point. It's those songs are way too expensive, apparently, like to anyone.
But this is what I mean. If you're going to run with the narrative of the Beatles, either use the Beatles or just leave it alone. It just, the same as you, Jerome, I just felt it was such a wasted opportunity, and I think it maybe misled a lot of people watching it that it was going to be maybe more than it. Loved the kind of idea of the music dying, because the maestros obviously sucked it all in. Fantastic. Another throwback, the Doctor living on Totter's Lane. I wasn't sure where he was going with that story, but I was like, okay, so we're going to see this series kind of him constantly sort of self-referring back to stuff. I was like, all right, that works, all right. Ruby's performance, oh my God, her playing the piano, all that, beautiful. Absolutely loved that. I thought that was a stellar sort of standout part of the episode. Thought she was fantastic. Again, the Doctor running away, obviously recurring thing we might find out more about. There were a couple of bits that I heard that I was like, actually, could these relate a bit further down the line? And this might be something to clip together for the future. The mention of the Doctor saying that the last time he encountered the toy maker, or kind of character like that, he tore my soul in half. Are we going to see potentially the other part of his soul, i.e. David Tennant, come back and kind of maybe fight something towards the end? Because they're really pushing the point of the Who-niverse here with the BBC ever since it's come back. So, again, big question mark. And also, the quote of, "My legions are coming." we hear that again. So I thought that was quite cool as well. Quick side note, I didn't realise that Ruby's character was like 19, 20 years old in this. I always thought she was
my God. That literally,
blew my mind
she was like, I was born
in
in 2004, and I was like, I'm part of a team that leads a Doctor Who podcast, all of whom were born in the 90s, and I was like, oh, okay.
I did have to Google like Millie Gibson's age, because I was like, no, surely not. And I was like, okay, so he plays in 1920. I was like, fair enough.
Not only do we do a Doctor Who podcast, all of us would give an arm and a leg to be in Doctor Who, which she has done at the age of 19, 18.
Mad. She grew up in 2004. She grew up in the year Shaun the Dead started. Mad.
Oh,
that's cyberbullying.
I loved the throwback, or the sort of flash forward to the future and the kind of decimated London. I thought that was wicked. Interesting thing, which because I'm a petrolhead, I kind of clocked it out, was the old Route Master bus in the background. It wasn't a modern one, which makes the sense that 60s Maestro completely effed the world up at that point, and it never carried on since then. The fact that the Maestro is stealing the music of the Spheres. Where's Chris Martin? Is he okay? I don't know.
I thought of you when the music of the Spheres.
I was just like, oh no. Actually, though, it was quite a good throwback kind of mentioning that, because the only the time I've known the Doctor mention music of the Spheres was that clip from the Proms.
Yes, I remember
David
that.
Tennant's music.
Matt Smith.
David Tennant. It's David Tennant and Martha.
Reminisce.
Brilliant little clip. So I thought that was quite a cool thing to that. Didn't know the music controlled the TARDIS. I didn't know really it could be it could succumb to that, but that was an amazing bit.
Atom possession. Oh, that was really interesting.
Yeah. And then you kind of have these real kind of tense moments. The Doctor's getting, obviously you can tell by the tears, incredibly emotional. Ruby's coming to terms with like the end of the world and kind of what might happen. I thought it was going in a really great direction. The hidden song being Christmas, another reference to that. I think we're going to have a massive payoff at the end of the season, lads. I really, really can't wait for that. And then there was a music battle. And at first I was like, what are you doing? What the hell's this? I crumpled like a crisp packet watching that, but it's just a music battle. I just went, oh, for fuck's sake. So anyway, that kind of eventually got better. But there was another bit, okay? One other little bit was the ad sign on the roof when Maestro finally disappears and the music's playing, and it was a reference to Chris. So that was it. So before she goes, the Maestro says, "The one who waits is almost here." Did you guys notice what was on the ad board at the top of the building?
Go on.
Nope.
Go back and watch it. There was an ad board for someone called Chris Waits, and a song that was like out now. So I'm the one who waits, Chris waits. I was like, that can't be, that could be a completely loose link.
Well, maybe Chris Waits is Christopher Eccleston has waited all this time to come back to Doctor Who, right?
You never know. But if there is a baddie called Chris Waits at the end, I'm going to be like, it's a bit like an accountant name, but there you go. Aside from the kind of nod, the kind of cameos from Johannes and Shirley Bassey off Strictly dancing at the end, which I kind of did a double take because I recognise those two. It did not need those last 5 minutes. I can see why they're doing it because the music's back. It's great, but it was again just a bit too Disney. And you're like, we don't need all of this. If you just kind of like, he's back, everything's fine, perfect. But no, we had to have a 6-minute dance routine. And it was like, I don't know. I just get the feeling that this is going to be it now going forward. We're just going to have to accept that it's going to be a very cheesy in points as well. But I feel like from the performance point across the board, love the Maestro. I cannot wait to see if they come back. Can't wait to see these other kind of like baddies as well come through, because it seems like there's going to be a few of them. But yeah, I thought out of the two so far, that was probably the best of Ncuti and Millie's performances, because there was real emotion, real like moments there. Aside from the really cringe music, really strong episode. Really enjoyed it.
Nice.
Mike, just before you come on to yours, can I just follow on something that Dan just said quickly? Which was, I get it as well. I think like it does feel a little bit like, oh God, we're really going into like turbo drive of Disney and points here. But to be fair, I feel like, and I think this is going to be a lot of Russell's tenure for however long he's here, is I think he's just trying to bring the joy back into the show. because I think it really went to a bit of a dark, I'm very lonely, I'm very kind of like, you know, the whole thing. And I think that's kind of what the Tenant thing was. It was like, and again, it was a bit cheesy how they came to it, but it was like, just let it go. Just let it go. Like, I think they're trying to get back to that sort of 2005 feeling where it's just like, let's have fun. Every episode is like, let's go and see new planets. Let's go and do stuff. Let's just kind of be a bit silly. And I'm kind of for that. Like, I think it probably needs that change, like deep down for a bit, so that when you do get those emotional punches, which it sounds like, you know, the finale might really have some quite heavy ones, I think they're earned, rather than, I think maybe one of the problems, not problems, but just one of the observations of like the Moffat going into Chibnall realm was, it just seemed to get darker and darker and darker and darker and darker, to the point where I think you just get a little bit exhausted with like the emotional tragedies that are going on for like characters. So I kind of get it. I kind of get why they're going down that avenue, to be fair.
Do you get the feeling that those final 6 minutes were initially supposed to be Beatles songs? And when they realised how much it was costing, they went, "Oh,
they would have known. They would have known. You hardly see any TV. You hardly see any TV media film that has Beatles songs in them.
No, true.
Yeah, because what's the film with the guy who writes Yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yeah, it is Yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I haven't actually seen that, and I know I need to because everyone raves about it. But does that feature like loads of Beatles songs?
Quite a few, doesn't it? But to be fair, they had to get the blessing of Paul McCartney, the family of John Lennon.
They contacted me, didn't they?
How much money did you make off that?
Oh, a couple of quid. I don't know much about money, so
that's why you bought it on some really fancy hats.
Yeah.
Just keep watching the next couple of episodes. They're going to get more and more lavish as they go.
You blowed the entire budget on Imagine. Anyway, Mike, what did you think?
I'll keep it short. I pretty much like both these episodes the same amount, it's quite jarring because they're very, very different. I agree with pretty much everything that both of you have said. I thought Jinx Monsoon was absolutely fantastic. And also something that we haven't covered yet is I love the lore of the fact that they are the toy maker's daughter. I thought that was brilliant. I thought they were incredibly playful, really powerful. I love something about the episode, which some critics have picked up on, and I kind of agree with, is it doesn't have a plot. It actually really doesn't have much of a plot at all. Yeah. They arrive in the Beatles era. The Doctor gets scared about, the maestro, and then they flash forward to London to show what the world's going to be like without music, and then they come back and what it is more is it's showcasing that the Doctor is facing forces that he's never faced before and how kind of scared he is. I loved the callback to the giggle. So when the Doctor first faces Maestro, they come out of the piano and they do the giggle. I thought that was really lovely. It's tying things together really, really neatly. And I also thought that I was looking at Susan Twist does appear in this episode. Susan Twist is in the canteen, I think, complaining about the price or overcharging the Doctor. I can't really remember. So Susan Twist's in it.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was a really good, energetic episode that obviously laid down some serious lore for the series going forward. Didn't have much of a plot, but I don't think that was the point. They absolutely nailed it, casting the maestro, but absolutely amazing. I thought all those scenes together were really good. Apart from that, I just really, really enjoyed it. But this is a really good point because there have been some theories about Doctor Who this series that would shed some quite interesting light on some of the stuff that we've seen so far. And basically, so this was brought up. I watched a video today by a YouTuber called Faris. He's a really good YouTuber who talks about Doctor Who. He came up with this theory. And then also there's someone from Who Culture called Ellie also said the same theory, but they're completely unlinked. So they both arrived at this independently. And as I was hearing it, I was like, I kind of agree with this. Is this series set in a TV show? Because there's a few really, really good clues. One, Maestro starts playing the Doctor Who theme, which I thought was really fun and really interesting. Two, there have been a lot of unusual, what's it called, third wall breaks? Yeah. Is it third
fourth wall?
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall. There have been a lot of fourth wall breaks, a lot of them. Doctor Who's kind of done this before in the past, but not to this extent and not this many. And also the big Strictly Dance number at the end, that's one massive fourth wall break. That does not fit into Doctor Who. It doesn't fit into the episode, doesn't fit into last episode. It's so weird. But if it's a TV show, and something I wanted to talk about was, would there be somebody pulling the strings, another god who's like the toy maker level, the maestro level, who has crafted a TV show like reality that the Doctor and Ruby are living in for this entire series? And is that god Ruby Sunday herself? Because they've hinted at the fact that she is incredibly powerful. She's thinking of these memories, and then the snow starts dropping down. She's managing to change reality in certain ways, and Maestro also seems pretty scared of her once she realizes her potential. Doesn't the Maestro say something like they shouldn't exist or something? So there's something going on with Ruby Sunday. And one final thing that to sort of add a little bit of credibility to the theory. The penultimate episode of this series is called The Legend of Ruby Sunday. And the little snippet they released of it, it's not a clip, just like the little image they released, is of a TV studio, a TV set. But The Legend of Ruby The Legend of Ruby Sunday, and it's a TV set in the little teaser image they released. Is The Legend of Ruby Sunday the fact that she is this godlike creature that has been brought through to our universe because David Tennant's 14th Doctor played that game with the swords at the edge of the universe? I don't know. I just think it's very interesting, and it adds some in-universe explanation as to all of these audacious fourth wall breaks, people winking into the camera, Mrs. Flood being like, never seen a TARDIS before, this whole dance number at the end. Don't know. Over to you, boys.
No, I think that's a really cool theory. I think I didn't know about the legend. I didn't know about the still of that being for the last episode. I think that could be really cool. Like all of these theories, I don't ever think it'll be 100% because they never are. Like there'll always be some variation on it. But I think that could definitely be somewhere along the line. I think the big three questions, I mean, there's probably more than three, but the big three questions that are kind of there is, one is obviously, like Maestro referenced the Pantheon and all of these kind of like, I think we're moving into the fantasy realm of Doctor Who where they are starting to deal with gods and the toy makers' legions. And I think that's a good way of doing it, is kind of taking a substantiated kind of lore character and then building this whole repertoire of villains or gods or whatever through that, because I think it kind of gives it credibility. But obviously kind of which, I assume, is Jonathan Groff's character going to be under the same umbrella? There's a lot of mystery that's kind of revolving around him, because I remember I was looking through a cast list of loads of people who are to be in the series, and one of the only characters it says TBC on is his character, which is interesting. I have heard a rumor, which I don't think is true, but there is a rumor going around that he might be a new incarnation of the Master. I don't think I believe that, but again, all of these things are starting to circulate about the mystery of this person. The other big one, obviously, got to address the elephant of why I have changed my name once again. You don't just mention Susan Foreman like that and throw it away, do you? Let's be honest.
No.
And the parallels are too big to ignore. Susan Foreman was the first companion in the first ever series. This is now season 1.
I said, and it's not just about Susan as well. It's also the fact, like Ruby mentioned it, it's like, you have a granddaughter, you have kids, you have this, and then like the Doctor replies with, well, yeah, or maybe I haven't had them yet, or all of this stuff. And it's really interesting, and I feel like it just because I hope I'm right in saying this, Carol Ann Ford is still alive, the original Susan. So whether or not she makes a cameo or someone else comes in and makes a cameo, I think Anita Dobson was, there was a big hint with her, I think, potentially being Susan, but going away from that and towards the TV theory, maybe she was just a fourth wall breaker. Who knows? It would be interesting, though, to see where it goes, because I think it's such a lore character who we've never seen for so many years. There's so much like history you can fill into that timeline that you can bridge that gap with. So much could have possibly happened. And is Susan the one who waits? I'm not sure, because there's a long period of waiting there. I feel like I'll be honest, I wasn't really buying into this Susan twist thing for a while, because I thought maybe it will just be one of those, do you know what I mean, red herrings, that they're kind of going, oh, this person keeps appearing, but actually it means nothing, or whatever. But is Susan Twist the one who waits? Because if she's who I think she is, who was the canteen person you're referencing, the one, I remember watching the episode and thinking, she's just said a line there after Shooty that honestly meant nothing. But they kept the camera focused on her for an extended amount of time, when actually, when you listen to what she says, it's kind of meaningless. It doesn't really say much. But the fact is that the camera never pans off her. It focuses while he leaves. And I thought that was really interesting. If that's who she is, if that's who you mean.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. So maybe Susan Twist's got a big part to play. And obviously the other final one is, who were Ruby's parents? Because obviously there's a big thing like revolving to that, like you said, Dan, with the snow and kind of who's the hooded figure. And I've seen some rumors that say it is Ruby, which would connect into your TV theory. It's almost like she doesn't know who her parents were, like the Doctor doesn't, but it's almost like this kind of multiple.
Well, I think Ruby's a god that has created this TV realm for reasons that we don't know. I don't think she's a baddie. I don't think she knows she's a god. I think it's one of those situations.
Yeah, it's a conscious.
I think there's something quite sad going on in her life, and she's done this. That's my theory, and I think, and because I'm finding all the fourth wall breaking quite jarring, and I think that probably will be the reason for it. Dan, what do you think? Do you think there's any credence in the TV show idea, or?
I think it'd be interesting because I feel like we're trying a lot of new things with Who in this iteration, and I think a long. Like I say, it's an 8-episode series, so I feel like there's enough evidence there to suggest it could be a TV series. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't quite fit into the DNA of what we've seen of Doctor Who in the past. So yeah, they've been experimental once again. It's always been that experimental kind of show.
I know I've said it, but Maestro playing the Doctor Who theme, that is some meta wall breaking stuff that we've never seen before.
She even plays the first 4 notes in front of the Doctor before he kind of starts, before the TARDIS starts going a bit mad as well. So I feel like there's definitely some potential logic there. I just feel like I feel like whatever it's going to be, we've already seen quite a lot of hidden clues and see. I've just sent you two in the WhatsApp as well. Now it's just a screenshot of the Chris Waits massive billboard. I'm like, why would that be one of the first things you see after that line in such a pivotal moment? You wouldn't have to put it there. It could be any artist in the world, but it's specifically someone called Chris Waits and is it the car polers or something like that? I just feel like I feel like the TV kind of style thing does make a hell of a lot of sense. And I think, why else, apart from a weird self-referential nod, would you put a Strictly Dance and a Strictly Judge as cameos in that show? Unless it's just there just to kind of like have a bit of a
the carolers.
I mean,
it's very different and it's very new for Doctor Who as we know it.
Oh my God, you're right. No, wait, Jerome, you're absolutely. It does say carolers.
The carolers, as in Christmas carols, as in
Chris Waits and the carolers,
as in the singing of what's it? The
carols.
Yeah, what is the Christmas carol they're singing? I can hear it, and what's it called? Oh God! Yeah, the one
it's
from
the Home Alone as well, isn't it?
It's not Gaudete. Don't get us started on Gaudete, Mike.
So, I think Russell T Davies said. Oh yes, yeah. When Russell T Davies said he was coming back to Doctor Who, he said it was going to be different, and they're going to do things that they've never done before. Obviously, he showcased that quite exceptionally in the first 2 episodes. I think he is a very clever writer that plans out his full arcs, and I think that'll be reasons for everything that we're seeing. But yeah, if there is a fourth wall break in the next episode of Doctor Who, written by Stephen Moffat, boom, because it wouldn't fit into that episode. Something's going on there, like something quite big is happening.
Forgive me, was there a wall break in the first episode with Space Babies?
No.
I'm only thinking because it was so prevalent in the most recent episode, and there was also a bit of it at the end of the Christmas ep. I don't remember there being that in.
Does Shooty like wink into the camera or something at some point, or
possibly?
Yeah,
or, not sure. Can't remember.
Also,
again, I've only just clocked this. I don't know whether it's going to have any relevance in the series, but I'm just going to mention it anyway. So that Christmas carol that's referred to in this episode is called Carol of the Bells. It's a popular Christmas carol which is based on the Ukrainian New Year's song Shred It. The music for the carol comes from the song written by the Ukrainian composer in 1914. The English language was written in 1936. Yes, if there's any other
trailed off there at the end of
it, but I'm just saying, if they are going to pick, you wouldn't pick a specific. Russell T Davies is smart enough of a writer that you wouldn't just pick that one specific Christmas carol or song for no good reason. There's got to be a bit of something else to it.
A bit of pizzazz.
Can we all agree that there's something going on with Ruby Sunday? She's not just a normal companion. She is some sort of powerful, something's happening with Ruby Sunday, I think.
Yeah. I think,
and the doctor's fully aware that she wants to go back to that point in time. He even makes a point of saying, you can go anywhere apart from there. We cannot go back to that time.
Because he's traumatized by Father's Day. That's season 1 episode. You remember Chris Eccleston and the big flying thing?
Yes.
And it's interesting as well that all of this series appears to be dominated by coincidences, and the Doctor is very much wary of that and going, we can't, what is it he said in the episode? It was like, we can't like lean on this thread too tight. He said something like that. It was like this thread. He was like, we can't pull this thread too tight. And yeah, interesting. I like, because I feel like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot that may happen that we think is going to happen. But also I think it's probably a massive red herring where it's going to be something completely different. It's like, I think there's little foreshadows to it, like the music battle, where like you thought that the last note was just going to come because you just did. Do you know what I mean? The way it was building up, and it didn't. That almost threw it a little bit. And Russell actually talks in an interview about he's kind of doing away with the whole 3-act thing that a lot of writers do. He's like, no, we're just going to change it up, we're going to break some rules, we're going to go a bit mad and things. And I'm just wondering where it's like, building up to the things that we've basically said are going to happen, and then at the last minute be like, they're not going to happen, or something else completely different is going to happen.
You know, so the actual twist at the end of the episode, apart from the big song and dance, is the fact that the maestro's son, the harbinger, I think, is actually still alive as well. So is he the one who waits? Because he's abused, and I wonder if he grows up to be really powerful, and maybe he's pulling all these strings. Who knows?
Is one of the episodes called Doom?
No,
I know there's Boom. The next one's Boom, but was there something Doom?
And he's lost his mind again.
I know it happens. Do you reckon, like, Ruby's family is kind of a collective of all of these really terrible baddies?
I like that a lot.
Split across the universe, across different timelines, different eras, different generations. And we're just going to end up seeing that Ruby's the kind of byproduct of all these terrible people to maybe try and fool or get one over the Doctor for everything he's done in the past.
I don't think she's got parents like we would recognise parents, I don't think.
No.
Just a quick one. The Maestro didn't notice any red nails.
No.
Do we think still could be? I mean, I personally don't think we've seen the last of Maestro. May not see them again this series, but I think it was such a good episode. I think there'll be callback for them to make another appearance.
I don't think we've seen the last of the Toymaker either.
No, absolutely not.
I think it might be quite nice to have some recurring villains. Do you know what I mean? Just for like, this is actually our section. But I'm wondering who the Red Nails is as well. Is that the one who waits possibly?
There are a lot of different threads that they are pulling. I'm really excited to see how they pay them all off, because I think they will pay them all off. Nice. I think some of them will be paid off in spin-offs, but I think, it's really exciting.
Nice for the Rani to get a mention as well. I think that was nothing. I think it was just to satisfy kind of fanboys and just going like, at some point the Rani's got to turn up. Big part of Doctor Who's never been here.
You snotted everywhere again, did you? Like out of pure like excitement.
Yeah. I snotted all over the screen, all over myself. Oh. So
to wrap it up, I think it's a really exciting time to be a Doctor Who fan. I know there have been mixed thoughts, especially about Space Babies, but I think we're in for a real killer ride. I'm really excited. Lovely. Thank you, boys. Well, thanks for watching our latest episode of Who Doesn't Have a Podcast. Please like and subscribe if you liked it, and subscribe it.
I did it.
We'll see you next time. We'll see you next week for our review of Doom. Sorry, Boom.
Boom.
Wave goodbye to your fans, everyone.
Bye, fans.
Bye, fans. Bye, Mum. See you later.
If you like this YouTube video, please consider liking,
sharing,
and subscribing.